Hey, welcome to a special episode of View the Right Thing.
Yay.
It's very exciting, and we have a bunch of beautiful faces. We're gonna put this. My hands in Alexis's. That wasn't planned. We're gonna actually put this out as a little video podcast in addition to the audio. So if you're just listening to this and you want to know what everybody looks like, you could. It's somewhere. I don't know. YouTube probably. That seems the most logical place for it. Mm-hmm. So we'll figure that out. I've got time. Okay, so let's do some introductions. I'm Wes.
I'm Alexis.
And I'm going to start. Do you want to pick someone? I'm gonna let you pick.
Steve.
Steve.
I'm Steve.
Yeah, longtime listeners might recognize Steve's voice. If you watch some TV shows like Fraggle Rock or what's that show? The I Think You Should Leave. What are some Young Rock? What are some other things you've been in, Steve?
Penny Dreadful City of Angels.
That's right. If you want to see Steve wearing a suit.
Oh yeah, what a suit! Oh, I missed that suit.
Yeah,
it was
you got
beautiful.
the manhandle of Fraggle, or not really a Fraggle.
What?
A Muppet.
I got to throw Uncle Travelin' Matt out of a Foo Fighters concert.
Yeah,
it was one of my top 10 days of being alive.
Oh my gosh,
living the dream.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then Turbo Time. Oh, and your most famous Pepperjack from Sharknado.
Just celebrated its 11th anniversary.
Wow.
11 years of Sharknado.
Wow.
Yeah, but Steve started this podcast with me, then got way too busy. And,
Sorry.
Pandemics happened and all sorts of things that led to Steve not being able to do the podcast anymore. But then I've had a cadre of people helping me out, and now I have some great partners. And I'm gonna move on to introducing Duane. Hi, Duane.
Hey.
So Duane has been doing our intros for the entirety of View the Right Thing. I've known Duane longer than anyone else on this beautiful panel.
Wow.
I have known Duane for 30 years.
3 decades. Three solid decades, man.
Wow.
Wow.
So Duane's just a dynamite human being, kind, compassionate.
Hey, let's not say things we can't take back, all right?
Giving of his time. I'm very funny, clearly. And the best Futurama fan I know. He made me a really lovely Planet Express shirt once. It was a great gift. So thank you, Duane, for being here. Thank you for doing our intro.
Always a pleasure.
100 episodes. And then, last but not least, I have Darling Beat here. Hi, Beat. How you doing? It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you.
Oh, no. You've seen me before. So, Beat, not an actress. So you have not seen her in the Young Rock or Fraggle Rock. He's done 2 rock shows, I just realized. Anyways, back to Beat. Beat is a longtime gamer friend of mine and occasional co-host of View the Right Thing. She's done some really great episodes like the Shining Dr. Sleep episode. We were just discussing Amelie, which she didn't love. Life is Beautiful, which she bawled during.
Okay.
So
I was nervous there.
So and maybe our most popular episode, Killer Raccoon's Dark Christmas in the Dark.
Great. It's a great
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for being a part of this for 100 episodes. We're doing a pretty special episode, a movie that it's near and dear to my heart. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just for fun, we'll try to limit it to 1 each. Anybody see any trailers recently? You want to start, Alexis?
Yeah, I do. So I just recently watched the trailer for I Saw the TV Glow.
Oh yeah, A24.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right up my alley.
It's Justice Smith, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am surprised at how much I want to watch that movie.
It's like horror, but not scary.
Yeah.
It's right up. Yeah, it really is right up your alley. Alexis doesn't like scary.
I don't like being scared at all.
Yeah.
but it just seems like a really well put together story, and it's like almost poltergeisty without the extreme horror. Poltergeist scared the crap out of me as a child. So,
do you want to talk about what you know of it is about? I mean, don't get too heavy into it, Christina. Don't ruin it for anyone. But
well, it's about teenagers who bond over their love of a supernatural TV show, and then the show is mysteriously canceled. But is it? Like, they're almost pulled into the story, which is so cool. Yeah. Great cast. Justice Smith, Bridget Lundy Payne.
I don't know who that is.
She played the sister on
Sister.
No.
Two of them.
On Asymmetrical.
Sister.
Atypical.
Oh, okay.
A little different. It's just like a lot of great young actors, and Fred Durst. Yep, I know. But it's written and directed by Jane Schoenbaum. I think has a really interesting eye. And
what else has she done?
She's done Change for Life. We're all going to the World's Fair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's an indie thing that I will surely enjoy.
Indie spooky.
Yeah, indie spooky.
Beat, how about you? Have you seen any trailers recently?
Don't be shocked. Don't be shocked, but no.
Oh man, it wouldn't be an episode with you if you didn't say no. So I'm actually kind of glad you said no. That made me really happy. Okay, well, all right, fine. Well, let's move on to Duane. Have you seen any trailers recently?
I'm actually going through my YouTube history because I know that I've seen a trailer something recently, and the only one I can there's two. And the one I'll tell you the one I remember offhand, and this was probably a couple of weeks back, but I saw the trailer for the extended cut of Rebel Moon, parts 1 and 2. So I only saw part 1, didn't go on to part 2, but this is supposed to be a lot. They're much longer. And they're definitely much more adult in nature. So I might watch it. We'll see what happens. I'll probably watch part 1, and then we'll see if I feel up watching part 2, much like the original cut.
Yeah, let me know what you think, because that first one was rough.
Yeah.
Did
sure was.
Anyone else see Rebel Moon? No.
I've been told to not even bother watching it.
It's dollar store Star Wars. That's kind of how I look at it.
It's Star Wars minus the everything.
Yeah,
minus the everything.
Yeah, the charisma, the charm, the
God.
Yeah,
competent writing.
You have like some neat action scenes and like your typical Zack Snyder slow-mo scenes, some bombastic visual effects, and that's pretty much it.
It's interesting because the first part, they spend a little bit of time at the beginning of the movie introducing a bunch of characters, and then they, I don't know, like 20-30 minutes in, 2 out of the entire group leave, and you never see those other characters again. And the second part, I think, brings all those characters, like they all kind of come back together, and it's about them together. So that's the only thing that made me kind of want to watch the second part, is that who I thought were the 2 most interesting characters got left behind in the film. So I'm curious about those, but yeah, it was a rough movie.
And if I may build on what Alexa said, I saw the TV glow, and yeah, you're in for a wild ride.
Hey, all right. Steve, how about you? Any trailers recently? Well, a trailer recently?
The only one that comes to mind, I'd been avoiding checking it out. I wanted it to catch me in a movie theater because I was so excited for it. So when I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, I finally got to watch the trailer for Captain America 4.
Oh no! We thought you and I were going to say the same thing. Okay, so what'd you think of was it not Brave New World?
I think it is Brave New World.
Yeah. Brave New World. Okay, yeah.
I think so.
It is
something like that. Something New World. Yeah. Okay, Brave New World.
I think it's Brave New World. Yeah. I'm pretty excited for it.
Is it Brave New World or New World Order?
No, it's Brave New World.
I think it's Brave New World. I feel like New World Order, they know they'd be getting way too many death threats from...
Oh, and tinfoil.
from a certain segment of the population. But yeah, it was very exciting. I'm so glad I waited to, catch it on the big screen and not just watch it on my phone or my TV, something like that. Yeah. And I barely remember much of it other than a few moments of just like, oh, can't wait to see what happens there. And that's the most I'll say.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty good trailer. I don't know. Like, I liked the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, but it scratched an itch I needed at the time, because I was sort of Marvel starved. But I don't know. I don't know. That's all I'll say. I don't know.
You can say it. They've put out way too much in way too short of time.
I also think I don't like Anthony Mackie very much.
Oh.
As an actor?
Just in general.
Okay.
Seems like an a-hole.
Oh. On
Maybe
what
he
grounds?
Just plays an a-hole.
I hear a lot of stories about him.
Oh.
Like, behind the scenes and stuff. It seems like maybe he's not an okay guy.
Oh, gosh, I hope that's not true.
Yeah.
What's to say? All right. Well,
what about you, Wes?
So I intentionally didn't watch this trailer, but I was like, if it shows up in the theater, I will watch it. And when we went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, we got the red band trailer for Alien Romulus. I was already in for this movie because it's Fede Alvarez who did Evil Dead and Don't Breathe. I really, really like this director, and it's Aliens, so why not? So yeah, the red band trailer. Red band, for sure. I remember looking over at Alexis, and she was like, nope. Not interested in this.
That looks too scary.
Oh, this movie's going to be gross. I can't wait. I think it could be bloody. I think the moment that I was like, oh, yeah, they're really going there is when you just like basically see the face hugger making sweet, sweet love to somebody's face. Yeah.
Come here, baby.
It's going to be intense.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I remember
I'm
you
excited
flipping
for
it for me, and I'm like, that's not. You can see that. Go with Steve.
Oh, I've got tickets.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, I'm going.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm not.
All right. Well, before we get into it, anybody want to add anything? Say anything? Nope. Cool. Just giving you a shot. I didn't think so. All right, Alexis, what movie did we see?
We saw E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
Oh, what's it about?
It's about a troubled child who summons the courage to help a friendly alien escape from Earth and return to his home planet.
Spoilers.
Oh, so many spoilers right there.
Yeah. Good question. I did cry again.
Oh.
Did you cry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good movie. Did anyone else cry? Was it just me and Alexis? Oh, Steve, a little bit. I thought maybe.
I got the sniffles, a little watering.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't cry.
You don't cry. I mean, 3 of us are cancers.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the 3 cancers cried.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm Scorpio. I just stuffed it down. No, don't show emotion. Don't you dare show emotion.
Gemini. No feelings.
None.
Wait, Dwayne's a Scorpio. What are you, Beat?
A Gemini.
A Gemini. Oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I don't know anything about any of this, so. So I guess here's the first question to ask everybody. The question I ask everyone. I'll start with Alexis. Did you enjoy this film?
100%.
100%.
Yes.
That's good. How about you, Dwayne?
Of course. It's the last time I saw this movie was part of the Seattle Film Club, which was at your old place in Seattle. So that was the last time I seen it. That was like 10, 12 years ago. So so it's going back and seeing something you haven't seen in a good long while. And so every so often when you do that, you kind of pick up things from it. So it's again, it's a total classic.
Yeah. Steve, how about you? Did you enjoy the movie?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I've loved E.T. my whole life. I feel like it's always been there. It came out just a few years after I was born. I'm pretty sure E.T. was the very first VHS my family ever bought. If you remember, it was a black tape, but it had a green flap on it. I think that was the first VHS we ever owned. And, it's E.T. It might as well be, a staple Christmas special that you make sure you watch every year. You know, it's E.T.
Before we go to Beat, do you know why they had that green flap on the VHS cassette?
I don't.
It was to combat piracy. So what had happened was this movie had come out in theaters. It had a crazy long run of something like 80 weeks.
Wow.
Sorry, that might have been 80 weeks at number 1.
Okay.
Wow.
It was in theaters. It was in theaters a long time, so they wanted to put this movie out, and Spielberg was like, I view this as like an event film. So like The Wizard of Oz, like it comes on TV and that's when you get to watch it, or Gone with the Wind, it gets released in the theater again. That's when you get to watch it. So I want this to be an event film. I don't want to just have everybody have copies of it. Well, pirates started, distributing copies all over, and people were buying these pirated copies, and Universal and Steven Spielberg started getting angry letters from parents that were like, the quality of this movie that you put out is terrible, and da-da-da-da. So he finally gave in and said, yeah, we can go ahead and do a home video release. And so to combat and say these are the real ones. The real ones have the green.
That's cool.
On the plastic. So Beat, speaking of green, did you enjoy this movie?
I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was cute and fun.
Yeah. I got to experience watching this with Beat online together, and this was your first time watching the whole movie, correct?
Yes. As a kid, I remember seeing like a few scenes like here and there, but I never sat down and physically watched it all the way through, and so it was really fun to get to do that.
Yeah. I've heard stories that some parents think this movie's scary. Some parents don't think their kids can handle how emotional it is. Look, so I went to a screening with Dee Wallace, and she addressed this at the beginning of the movie, and she was like, so are there kids in the audience? And there were a whole bunch of kids, and she was like, okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and spoil a little bit because I don't want you to be caught off guard, but there's a scene where E.T. dies, and it looks like E.T. is dead, but he's not really dead, so you don't have to worry. And that's a thing that I think parents were concerned about, and maybe still are, about how their kids could handle, and just a lot of kids will just shut stuff down once they see something they don't like, right? Like they get a food that they don't like, they just won't eat anything, right? Chicken nuggets or nothing. So yeah, it was you. So this moment in ET is, I think, one of those things where parents were really concerned about that. So I sort of wonder, do you think your parents like shied you away from it, Beat, or do you just weren't that interested as a kid?
I was a very active kid. I played a lot of sports, so I did not watch TV. I was watching Freddy Krueger and Ghostface as a child, so
okay, fair enough.
It was definitely not shut down on my part.
And this original early treatment idea did start as a scary movie. But then very, very quickly, like, Spielberg had a whole bunch of other ideas of things of what he wanted to say about the film. So they went with different writers, and they scrapped the original thing altogether. But so maybe Beat would have enjoyed a spookier version of this. I don't know, as a kid.
I mean, maybe. I mean, the first part of the movie felt like that's what it was meant to be. Like, it was very, to me, it felt very like horror-esque in the first part.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a view of like Keyes and the rest of the government people as antagonists, right? As this sort of like scary entity that's hunting these aliens, and intentionally so. And then we learn later that that's not really their goal. But we'll get to that in a minute. I do want to talk a little bit about the film and sort of just what the phenomenon was, because I know Beat would have been too young or not born yet. Yeah, not born yet. She's the youngest of the group. You weren't born yet either?
No.
Okay, so to give you an idea of sort of like the importance of this film, and I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to be looking down and referencing my notes a lot. So this movie grossed over $1 million domestically every day for 80 consecutive days.
Wow.
Over
$1 million a day?
Yep, for 80 straight days.
God bless America. That's wild.
more than any other film up to that point. It held that record for almost 20 years until Titanic eventually surpassed that. It had Titanic was 101 consecutive days.
Yeah.
At the time, this movie broke all box office records. It was about $359 million domestic, and then there were some re-releases that gave it another about $75 million. It was the highest grossing film of all time until Jurassic Park came out. Just domestic, but if you account for inflation, it's $1.3 billion. So it's for that era, that's massive, absolutely massive. So even adjusting for the Avatars of the world and the Star Warses and the Marvels, it's still, if you adjust it for inflation, it's number 7 all time.
Wow.
The non-inflation worldwide gross was about $793 million. A couple years after the original release, Spielberg wanted to buy a house, and he found one. He agreed to buy it, and then he received a phone call a few days later from one of the executives at Universal Studios, and they told him that they bought him the house as a present. And he was like,
wow,
too much. And they were like, this movie, the amount of money this movie made in Bolivia is more than that house cost us. Wow. This was big. This is a big movie. It made him so famous that his mother was a guest on The Tonight Show to talk about him.
Dang.
I mean, I don't think I've ever heard really any other stories like that where it's like, oh, we're just going to get somebody's parent to come and talk about them because they're busy doing other stuff. But everybody wanted to know about him. The movie was nominated for 9 Oscars: editing, cinematography, writing, director, picture. It won best score, visual effects, sound editing. Spielberg lost director for the 3rd time in his career.
Whoa.
To who?
Richard Attenborough, who did Gandhi. And afterwards, Attenborough praised E.T. as the more exciting and innovative film, which is nice.
Yeah.
This film is ranked number 44 on AFI's 100 Years of Heart-Pounding Movies, number 6 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Cheers, ranked number 6 on AFI's 100 Most Inspiring Movies of All Time, number 3 on AFI's Top 10 Science Fiction Films, number 14 on AFI's 100 Years of Film Scores, which I believe is way too low. Should be number 1. I think the end credits is the greatest movie song ever written. In 2007, the American Film Institute ranked it as the number 24 greatest movie of all time. It is voted number 1 on in the UK on Channel 4's greatest family films.
Yeah.
Guinness has Titanic as the most number 1 weekends. I think with a re-release, E.T. actually ends up beating it by 1. I'm not 100% sure on that, but all of the information I could get on that, that's where it led me. So, Spielberg has talked a lot about how this is his most personal film. It's his favorite film. And when he was making Raiders of the Lost Ark, he became really depressed about the art of making movies. He felt like he was losing touch with why he wanted to make movies in the first place. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to make stories about people and their relationships together. And I think Raiders, don't get me wrong, Raiders is incredible. And it has something to say, but it doesn't have the emotional connection that the characters in something like this has. So Spielberg started thinking about what he wanted to do, and this was while he was making Raiders, and he would say to himself that he just needed a friend to talk to, somebody that could just give him all the answers. So he thought about his previous film, or one of his previous films, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He thought about the last act where the aliens come out of the ship, and then he thought about how he would react if he had been 10 and he had seen that. And he has a really nice quote that was, and what if he needed me as much as I needed him?
Oh,
Wouldn't that be a great love story? which I love.
That's
I've been more
adorable.
emotional in this episode.
Yeah.
Like I said, E.T.'s his most personal film. Elliot's this like lonely, sad kid, and his relationships are all with all of his relationships are with his direct family. And that has become splintered with his father separating from his mother. And he's just like trying to figure out how to deal with that and what that means for him in the world, which is kind of what happened with Steven Spielberg and his parents. When he made this movie, he didn't use any storyboards. So for those that don't know about storyboards, it's a visual tool that directors will use to sort of like lay out how the scene's going to look and play out. And cinematographers lean very heavily on that, as do production designers. But he wanted things to be really spontaneous for this film. So, and he wanted the kids to feel like things were spontaneous. So he just didn't use storyboards. He just kind of was like, we're going to kind of wing it a little bit on this. And he also decided to, instead of being a director to the kids, he wanted to be their friend. So he spent time playing D&D with them, playing video games with them, giving them gifts on when they did the Halloween scene. He dressed up as well. He wore like a full lady costume, which the kids got a kick out of. Yeah, it's just a really interesting. Going into this, he just had this. I think he'd sort of found his love again for telling stories, and that was really clear.
Wow.
I'm gonna turn it over to you to do some notes.
Okay.
And then everybody just chime in when you have something you want to talk about. You want to address with that, or if you also have a note that goes along with it, and then I'll also try and throw some things into as well.
Well, at the beginning, the spaceship reminded me of the movie Daryl with the inimitable Barrett Oliver from The Neverending Story, where he plays an alien kid. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of Daryl. And then I realized that Daryl came out like 3 years later, so they probably copied him.
Yeah, a little bit. So Daryl was a robot.
He was a robot?
Yeah, he's a robot.
Oh.
Cool. He played Pole Position too really well in that movie.
Oh.
It's the same idea. You're not wrong.
Okay.
I mean, alien.
But he was
robot.
flying a spaceship, right? Or some sort of ship.
It was an experimental airplane.
Experimental airplane. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And then when he grew up, he became RoboCop. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh boy.
Something I didn't. So I saw this when I was very little.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I'm sure my parents were just like, "You should watch this. It's fun." But I did not remember that there were multiple ETs that were like just looking around, and then he wandered off, and that's why he got left there. I didn't remember that at all, which is wild. Because, of course it's been on TV many times throughout my life, but I never just sat down and watched it all the way through again. I would just catch clips and phrases of it.
That scream when the ship takes off just kills me.
I know.
Yeah. Real quick, did anybody have any? I have something about the ship. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to throw in there? No. So the ship is designed by really well-known artist named Ralph McQuarrie. A lot of people will know Ralph McQuarrie from Star Wars.
Oh.
So a lot of the concept art for Star Wars, the way the lightsabers looked, and not the production design, but the production design definitely leaned really, really heavily off of McQuarrie's designs.
Wow.
Darth Vader design, that's him. So Ralph McQuarrie, famous guy, did this kind of bulbous round spaceship.
Yeah.
Which had a lot of moving parts and lights, which also causes problems when you're trying to shoot a movie. So,
Uh-oh.
So fun. What else you got?
What else do I got? I wrote Papa Mau Mau.
Wow.
Like this boy that's just on the phone to who?
Radio. He's calling in a radio request.
Oh,
I thought he was ordering pizza.
No, he's calling in a radio request for Papa Mau Mau, which is why when Elliot comes back with the pizza, you can hear it on the radio in the background.
my gosh. Thank you. I was trying to figure out what that was about.
And he's requesting it for Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because then afterward, when she's like filling the dishwasher, they're checking her out.
Yeah, and she's singing the song.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that's very sweet.
Well, they know she's single, so, you know.
Yes.
Hi-oh.
Yeah. And they probably know that she's kind of sad.
They definitely know she's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I never really paid attention to previously was that their house sort of backs up to a cornfield.
Yeah, it's weird.
There would never be corn that close to a house.
In California, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's spooky.
And then, like, there's immediately a hill.
Yeah.
That confused me.
Yeah, it's confounding.
Yeah. That part didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Sometimes.
But, like, it's okay.
Sometimes you lean toward the visual.
Yeah.
I do want to bring something up about Mary and that opening scene with the boys.
Yeah.
So they're all playing D&D, and she's like, you know, what's the point? How do you win this? And one of the kids says, it's like life. You don't win at life. And there's a reaction that I've never noticed until recent watch that Mary gives, where it's a sort of resigned sadness because she's going through this thing, and she's like, too fucking right, kid. You don't win at life. Like, and it's interesting because we don't really get much of that until, you know, a little bit later. We get a little bit more with the whole Mexico conversation, but that's one of the themes of the movie that we'll address in a little bit. And she was doing the work as an actress and sort of planting the seed, even though it wasn't a focus on her, which I highly respect.
Oh yeah.
So.
Filling the scene, like actually responding to what is said instead of just pretending to hear it.
Yeah.
Like she actually heard it and she absorbed it. It was really beautiful.
Again, you guys feel free. Chime in. Anything? You guys anything?
I think I have like one thing to add to the box office gross.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, E.T. was #1 up until 1997 when the re-release of Star Wars came out, and then that bumped Star Wars on top of E.T. And Steven Spielberg put out an ad, I think in Variety or maybe the LA Times or something, and it was a sketch of E.T. putting a crown on top of R2-D2 and a message from Steven congratulating George because like they're best buds.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's some weird conflicting information. Box Office Mojo, I found, was not my friend trying to research some of this stuff. But yeah, I do remember there was definitely a passing of the torch, and it's happened a few times. I think that James Cameron also did something when I want to say maybe when Star Wars overtook Titanic as the top grosser, that he also put out like a little sketch thing in the newspaper, sort of congratulating Star Wars. So.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Good thought, Duane. Good ad.
Speaking of genuine responses, when Elliot calls his brother, he says he called him penis breath.
Yeah.
That I wonder if that was ad-libbed.
It was ad-libbed.
My gosh.
Yeah, so Spielberg went up and whispered that to him and asked him to do that. His parents were not super happy about it. And Dee Wallace had no idea it was coming.
I could tell. That response was so fantastic. Yeah. I would have laughed the same way. Yeah. It was really great. Oh gosh.
We get to meet Gertie in that scene, the penis breath
scene.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
So interesting. Juliette Lewis auditioned for Gertie, and supposedly her father made her turn it down to do something else. And Sarah Michelle Gellar also auditioned for Gertie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. I guess I didn't realize they were all around the same age.
I didn't think they were either, but
I didn't think they were either. I always think of Sarah Michelle Gellar as way younger than Drew Barrymore.
But I could see Drew Barrymore and Juliette Lewis being the same age. But yeah, I would think Sarah Michelle Gellar was much younger, but supposedly.
Well, because wasn't just like a couple years later, Juliette Lewis was in the National Lampoon's Christmas. And she was a teenager.
Yeah.
So she would have been much older.
You know, there's also like, you know, as you actors know, sometimes you audition for stuff that's much younger than you, and sometimes you audition at the same age that you are. So it's very possible that some of these kids Drew is maybe a little bit older, maybe a year or two older, and maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar is a year or two younger than Drew, and because she did Buffy as an adult, so
who did Buffy as an adult?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh yes.
So it's not like it's you're playing a 16-year-old even though you're like 20 or whatever. So maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar was the correct age at the time. I don't know.
I just looked up some birthdays.
Yeah.
Oh.
What you got?
Yeah. So Sarah Michelle Gellar, born April 14th, 1977. So she's probably been like 4 or 5. So she's
the right
about
age.
that age.
Yeah.
Juliette Lewis was born in 73.
Oh yeah.
So she would have been like a little bit, like 4 years at that age. Like that's definitely a big bump.
Yeah.
Wow.
But but she could have played younger.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a smaller woman, so she may have looked really, really young. So
wow,
that's a benefit if you got somebody who looks really, really young.
Yeah.
But they can act and process things the way an 8-year-old would versus a 4-year-old.
Right.
Great.
And Drew Barrymore was born in 75. I thought she was much younger. Like, I thought she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's...
So a lot of my notes are like, they're letting a 3-year-old do this? So now that I know she was a little bit older, but she seemed so young.
Thank you, Duane.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's kind of like in Swingers when Vince Vaughn tells the "How old is brother" story about the audition for Big Brother, and then they say he's a little too old.
I don't remember.
He says, "Well, how old is brother?" And they say, "Well, he's 11." You remember Swingers, Wes? Don't pretend you don't remember Swingers.
Totally remember Swingers.
Remember that part of it.
I'm like, sometimes I don't remember stuff, and Steve brings this up, and I'm like, is Steve messing with me, or is...
No, I'm reminding you about Swingers. I want to harken back to when the guys show up at the very beginning as E.T. is trying to escape and rejoin his ship, and how when I was growing up, seeing the movie every once in a while on TV, I always thought of those guys as like, oh wow, they're special agents, they're police, they're these big authority figures and all that. And then when I got to see it on the big screen again last summer, it occurred to me that like, oh, they're probably just like college guys from over at JPL who just happen to notice this thing and we're like, we got to go see what that is, and how the danger in that scene seems just a tiny bit reduced now as an adult.
Yeah, I look at Keys. Peter Coyote's character is referred to as Keys because that's what you see on his personage. Both in the novelization and in the credits, he's listed as Keys. And I've always sort of viewed him as he's maybe works for NASA, maybe works for a university studying, the possibility of extraterrestrials. So he's been waiting for, he talks about he's been wishing for this, wish for this when he was 10.
Yeah.
And so he's been waiting his whole life for it. So I always imagined that they're like, his crew from the university or something, and they're just responding to something they detected on their radar or I don't know, satellite or something.
Yeah.
So.
I think that was something that kind of drilled into me when I watched this recently, because he said like he came to me too, and I've been waiting for this for 10 years old, and I'm like, I want to hear more of this story. And so it's one of those things where like for the sake of simplicity and not to over explain things, that's just something that's kind of left to your imagination, because they don't exactly explain how the transmitter works, because they're not going to go into that and over explain it, because this movie clocks in just under 2 hours, and so you don't want to over pad it like maybe some modern day movies though. But that is something that kind of is like, I want to have more of that, and I don't know whether that's in the novelization or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although at the same time, like you don't, like the movie is kind of like the canon, and like the book is more like a supplement, especially if it's a book that's based on a movie.
Yeah. Well, the novelization still has M&Ms.
Oh,
that's right.
So we'll get to that.
And like there's like the urban legend where like the executive at Mars that was pitched to it, they didn't get fired, but they got chewed out and they got demoted.
They should have. I don't know if it happened, but
Yeah, because someone at the top was like, "How did we blow this?"
Yeah, well,
they had to explain why they didn't want to do it, because because the creatures they saw drawings of what ET was, and they're like, "Oh, this is scary. We don't want a product associated with this." And then it became like this very heartwarming story, and made tons of money. And Reese's Pieces sales went up 300%.
Nice.
And so someone at Mars was like, "Durr."
Yeah, Reese's was like, nobody knows who we are. let's do it.
Yeah.
So,
What do we got to lose?
Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody next?
More notes?
Yeah.
I noticed this. E.T. was so smart that when Elliot was pointing to his different parts, E.T. wasn't mirroring him. He was exacting him.
Oh.
So, like, it wasn't like, oh, I've put up this hand, and so he's going to mirror and put up his left. He was doing, like, you put up your right hand, I'm putting up my right hand.
Yeah.
It was so, like, I'd never noticed that before. As humans, we would mirror.
I also suspect or believe that this is the moment that they sync their brainwaves. That doing this thing together is sort of like the ritual that binds them together.
Oh.
Because it's after that moment that they both get sleepy and fall asleep.
Oh, wow.
And so now they're feeling each other's feelings, and yeah.
It was so sweet.
Oh, I do want to bring up a thing. Since we moved off of the penis breath scene, there is a moment in that scene when Elliot kind of hurts his mom with the he's in Mexico with Sally line, and unbeknownst to Steven Spielberg, Dee Wallace got up from the table. It was not scripted for her to get up from the table. And so they cut, and he pulled her aside and he said, "Hey, I want to know what was your instinct there?" And this is the mark of a really great director, is listening to your actors. And she said, "Well, I didn't want the kids to see me crying." And he was like, "Okay, we need to give you your moment here then." But they didn't have a way to shoot that at the sink. So he turned to his crew and he said, "Build me a sink. You have an hour."
Wow.
So they built a little sink setup so they could do her close up for that moment. So really, really, man, what a director.
Wow.
I mean, I've always said this, I've always been such a big, unashamed Spielberg fan.
Yeah.
But these are the reasons why.
Oh, yeah.
Smart guy.
I mean, but that was really smart
so-
of her as well.
Yeah.
As a mom, you don't want your child to see you cry, and like, so for her to think of that and be like, "That's what I would do in this situation," and him to follow, that's really smart.
Yeah, she trusted her instincts, and then she trusted Spielberg to trust her. Wow.
Yeah.
What a family. What a little family.
Oh, so sweet. When the mom, so after the kids have discovered that there is an alien creature in their brother's room, and the shelves fall down, and now the room is a total mess. What she says is so interesting. This isn't a room; it's an accident.
Yeah. Well, and I like it almost feels very Star Wars. This is no room. There's no planet. Which I think is kind of funny.
I picked up on that as well. I was like,
yeah,
I like how they did that. That was like a good delivery.
Yeah. And so what were you saying about that? I'm sorry.
Oh, it just, that line felt more weighted than just a simple line.
Yeah.
Like there was more to it than,
my kid's up to something.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that you brought up the shelves too. So Robert McNaughton did not know the shelves were going to come down. They had some like grips or somebody on the other side of the wall. They had pins under the shelves, and they pulled the pins so the shelves would fall. So you had no idea that was going to happen. Also, there's a moment with Robert McNaughton that happens before that when he backs the car out of the driveway.
Yes.
And he runs into the wall. He didn't mean to do that. He thought he ruined the take and was like super like embarrassed and like apologetic and thought he was going to get fired from the job. And Spielberg loved it, so he left it in. I thought that was kind of cute that that was a mistake that stayed in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, like, what kid before taking driving lessons of any kind knows how to back out of a garage?
Yeah.
Especially that long. It was a long driveway.
Yeah.
It was great. What Elliot and E.T. are connected.
So E.T., since we're at the point where the kids have seen E.T.
Yeah.
There were 3 E.T. designs designed by Carlo Rambaldi, who did, like the aliens and Close Encounters and a bunch of other things. So one of them was it could walk by itself. That was its thing. One of them was a suit that small people could wear. And then one of them had wires coming out of its feet. And that was used for close-ups. So, all the little facial expressions. And there's actually a really great moment that was ad-libbed by Drew Barrymore. Not exactly ad-libbed, I guess, but unintentionally ad-libbed, which was, I don't like his feet. And that's because she had looked under the thing and seen all the wires coming out of his feet. And she was like, I don't like his feet. She believed that thing was real at the time that they made this movie. So all the kids sort of, they worked really hard to never show the kids too much. They wanted the kids to really buy into this thing. Dee Wallace had some really great stories about Drew on set. They would be on set and they'd be like, where's Drew? They would look around and it'd be Drew playing with one of the ETs that was just standing off to the side, talking to it and playing with it and stuff. So that was her buddy, which that concept will come up again at the end of this podcast. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I'm jumping ahead to the frog scene.
Okay.
If you'd like to say anything before that.
So leading into that, we have E.T. getting drunk.
Yes.
/ Elliot getting drunk, which is pretty great. Not great. Kids don't drink. But great in the movie. So that E.T., since we were just talking about, E.T. was played by someone in a suit, and was played by a 12-year-old boy that was born without legs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. So you can see him waddling around on the floor and stuff and falling over. It's pretty cute. We can talk about the frogs.
Sure.
Unless anybody else has something else to say about that. Nope. Okay. Forever hold your peace.
First of all, I don't know if the teacher is basically essentially giving the children chloroform.
Yeah. Cotton ball.
Was that a normal thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the thing. Because it put the frog to sleep and not kill it.
Yes. What if the child grabbed the chloroform and was like,
well, I mean,
what is this?
Supposedly supervision, and you tell them what to do. That's why it was put the lid on right away. Because they wouldn't pass out if they left the lid off. Elliot leaves the lid off. I think that's part of you got to do this right away. Sort of that old wives, or not wives' tale, but Grimm's fairy tales that are lessons for kids to not go out after dark or talk to strangers or whatever, right? So I think that's the idea behind it. So the whole frog scene has always stuck with me. And it was part of the reason why I really wanted to see the movie A Quiet Man. Check out the Quiet Man episode with Steve and I. I'll have the feeder, I think.
Because I thought, this is going to be a really exciting movie.
Oh, yeah, not at all. It has a really great fight scene.
Yeah. It is also long.
Yeah, and misogynistic. And
So I remember getting so excited when it got to that scene. I was like, yay, E.T. And is it over yet? But I thought they replicated that moment so beautifully.
Yeah.
And I also find it so amusing that he just grabbed a random kid and was like, here, I'm going to stand on your back so that I can kiss you.
Well, so the kids trying to catch the frog so there's a frog that jumps right past them right before that happens. And the shot before it, when he whips the girl and you can see him start to come in the frame on the floor trying to grab the frogs. But yes, he ends up standing on the random kid, which is pretty great. Probably my favorite scene of the movie outside of the end. I love this moment. I really love the way John Williams put a little bit of the Quiet Man score in, along with the ET score, main theme in this moment. Because they use some of the Quiet Man score, and then there's a moment when they drop the frogs out the window. I just love that moment so much. It's such a great visual. And then the ET, the main theme, they should throw with the frogs jumping around, which I think is pretty adorable.
I was nervous every time they would take big steps. I was like, don't step on the frog.
Yeah.
Like, how many frogs were accidentally stepped on?
Really?
Probably.
Let's see. Let's say
none. Okay.
Let's say none at least.
But likely 3.
Somewhere between none and 3.
Yeah.
That kiss scene too took 6, 7, 8 takes, I believe. Henry Thomas was super nervous about it. Did not like doing it. Erica Eleniak, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
She was like 2 years older than him, and he just like it. He was unhappy with it. So it took several tries to get it right. But
wow.
Yeah. But it's a cute moment when her little heel turns at the very end. I really think that's really adorable.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
She loves a frog rescuer.
Yes.
Well, and it's funny because you see her first inclination to liking him at the bus stop earlier in the film.
Hi, Elliot.
Yeah, and he just sort of like ignores her. He has no idea. And then when he's drunk, he turns and looks at her, and she's just like, ugh, ew. Like, a kid showing off. What a show off. And she's not into it. But then when he takes charge, she's like,
yeah,
hell yeah. So
that's my man.
I missed a thing too. The sound of ET walking, like on the kitchen and stuff. They filled a T-shirt full of Jello, slapped that around on some materials to make that sound.
Interesting. Jello. Yeah, he had a very wet sounding walk. So,
does anybody want to talk about the deleted scene from the school? Does anybody?
There's a deleted scene from the school?
I know of it, but I don't know that it's been officially released unless it's like on DVD as like an extra or something.
Yeah, you can find it on extras and you can find it on YouTube. So there's he gets taken into the principal's office. Principal played by one Harrison Ford ended up on the cutting room floor. Deborah Winger also played the nurse and ended up on the cutting room floor as well. But
wow!
So there's this scene where the principal has him in the office, and you never really see Harrison Ford. You hear him, and you kind of see him, but he's like backlit, or Spielberg utilized this sort of old school cartoon technique where you always saw adults' legs, but you never really saw the adults.
Yeah.
And that was intentional. Like, he didn't want to show the adults until they were crucial to the film. And so again, with this principal, you never really got a really good look, and he's sort of warning Elliot about the dangers of misbehaving and using drugs, and because he's drunk at the school,
right.
and while he has his back turned, looking out at the youth that are corrupting the world, Elliot's chair begins to levitate off of the ground and then comes back down. Just of course as the principal turns around, the mom comes in and gets him. So
interesting.
Yeah. So
wow.
So Harrison Ford was.
I never heard about that.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah.
And it's so when what is the mom's name?
Mary.
Come on. I know.
Mary.
That should be a very simple name to remember.
And the kids call her that. When they get down to business with her, they call her Mary.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and that never would have flown in my home.
No.
When Mary comes home with Gertie, and she gets the call that he's supposedly been drinking, and she just tells Gertie to stay home and be good. And of course, this is when I was thinking that she was 3, and I was like, she left a 3-year-old home alone? But even so, any child under the age of 10, under the age of 9, whatever.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't remember
that. Was the 1980s.
It was the 80s. It was a different time.
Yeah, it was practically the 70s. Because it was...
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, 82 is when it came out.
Yeah,
so, like, when it was being
81.
made, yeah. Jeez.
Well, and there's a thing with Drew Barrymore, too, where there was a day where she kept forgetting her lines, and Steven Spielberg lost his cool. It's a rare instance for him, especially with kids.
Yeah.
And I think he yelled at her on set. And then, so they took a break, and then they informed him that she had come to work with a high fever, and she insisted on going to work that day.
Aww.
And so he sent her home and sent her some gifts and a handwritten note apologizing to her.
And a big bag of Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, I'm sure he took care of her, I'm sure.
Oh.
But apparently, like, she because he got so upset at her, she just cried and cried and cried. And then he learned the truth, and then he, like, went and hugged her and just tried to hold on to her until she stopped crying. And I'm sure he felt really bad about it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say that she came to work drunk.
Oh, yeah,
and I was
totally.
like, uh-oh.
Yeah, she was.
Did that when it start?
Yeah.
Is that when it started? Okay. Oy. When Elliot says, "we're fine," he keeps referring to...
We are Venom. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he refers to them together.
Yeah.
Their brains are distinct.
Well, it almost feels like not just their brains, but like their being is connected.
Well, yeah, and they feel each other's emotions.
Right.
They're obviously get sick together and drunk together and die together.
And like it feels, even though it's more than just pet, it's a deeper connection. But it's as if,
Pet. How dare you?
No, it's more than pet. But animals can imprint themselves on you.
Sure.
And there was definitely imprinting, but like on a cellular level.
Yeah, and I think both ways.
Yeah.
Not just one way.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, because they needed each other. E.T. needed Elliot, and Elliot needed E.T. And also, this is just like getting really specific, but Elliot, the name, begins with an E and ends with a T.
Yep. No, yeah, that's there's that, and also Steven Spielberg did another movie with a sheriff, Sugarland Express. Check out the Sugarland Express episode. Steve and I have good right there. And there is, I believe, the sheriff's name was something like E.T. Elliott.
Huh.
Yeah, just kind of interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, connections there. I also sort of suspect Elliot doesn't know what ET is, or what the term ET is, until he goes to the bus stop. Because one of the friends says it for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Extraterrestrial. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but I got that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But,
when Mary is reading the Peter Pan story to Gertie, and E.T. is just like rapt.
so
He's so interested. Go ahead.
I have two things to say about that.
Okay.
One is something that is cut out of the movie, so it doesn't. This intention does not exist anymore, but it's kind of fun to know about. Originally, there was a subplot where E.T. fell in love with Elliot's mother, and that was the beginning of that moment, and that's why he's so intent on watching them. They obviously removed the element, although one element is still in the movie, I believe. But I think now that tension behind that is that he misses his family and that he misses his mother, because he calls her mom near the end of the film.
Yeah.
That's true.
So then that leads me to believe that
We had a funny look at her face.
That just made me so sad.
Oh,
How he did that.
yeah.
Well, then that leads me to believe that the alien that was waiting at the top of the bridge when it went away was his mom.
Mm-hmm. I
And
believe
she,
so.
like, her heart was shining so bright, like, my baby, come back. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, but and also the Peter Pan thing is a nice setup for something that will come up later.
Oh, okay. Well, what I said was, okay. So Peter Pan, the moment that she says she thinks that she can be well again, it's right when Elliot cuts his finger and E.T. repairs it. But that's also when E.T. learns about about pain.
Well, how to express it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which comes like at the end.
And that's the part that gets me.
Oh, yes. I'll get back to that.
So we want to talk about the communicator that he's building?
Yeah.
You brought up the stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody notes on that? That's me. Sorry, I know I keep asking you guys and then you guys just stare at me.
Notes on the communicator.
I just want to make sure that I'm not just like talking over you guys. You know, when you have.
Well,
I would say like go ahead and tell us your notes because I do have one thing to say about it. But by all means, go ahead, start.
So the communicator is constructed by Henry Feinberg, an expert in science and technology interpretation for the public. It actually worked.
No way.
Now, when you say it works, it does a thing. Does it communicate to extraterrestrial life? I don't believe so, but it did do the things that it did in the movie. Like, you know, the thing pulls it and it moves the saw blade. So the saw blade essentially was like a punch card, and the punch card, like, you know, like on a music disc, and it spelled out "I love Debbie" on it.
Oh, Debbie.
And that was his girlfriend, who ended up becoming his wife.
Get it, Debbie.
So their love is forever encapsulated in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which
Debbie.
I think is really sweet.
It's really sweet.
Yeah. Duane, did you have something?
Yeah, I just know because like he used the speak and spell, and so since I watched this for the first time in high definition, that the characters were not English letters; they were like some alien language.
Yeah.
So that was something that I noticed. I noticed for the first time. So, and again, it's something where like E.T. took common household items and turned it into a communicator, and it's for the best that it's not over-explained.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ooh. The Halloween scene.
Which one? They're all great.
I mean, so many of them.
Let's start at the very top. One of my favorite things in the Halloween stuff is when Elliot looks at E.T. and says, "Ready? Ready." I just love the way he's just like, "Ready."
Yeah, it was so great.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure that's the first time they ever saw their mom dressing kind of sexy.
Yeah, so the way both the kids look up and down their mom, and they're like, "Oh, something's up here," and there is a theme in this movie that these kids are kind of coming to terms with what their mother is going through, and that's more so for Elliot, I think, because Michael's dealing with it right at the top of the movie. He's like telling his friends not to touch his mom because they know she's single and they're doing things for her and trying to show off for her and grabbing the knives and be the man of the house and that kind of thing. So I think Michael's already dealing with that, and Elliot's figuring it out as the movie happens.
Yeah.
In a probably more real way than Michael is. But yeah, them seeing their mother like that, the little heart drawn on her face, and
is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Couldn't figure out what that was.
Yeah.
Just looked like a weird mole.
Yeah, I think it was like, oh, it's like a beauty mark, but it's like a heart because it's bigger and it's Halloween and
yes,
I'm a sexy kitten. I guess. Nobody clip that. Duane, don't clip that.
It was great that the way that they were able to mask the fact that it wasn't Gertie was that she was a ghost clown. I'm sorry, a ghost cowgirl.
Sure, with the hat.
With the hat. The hat made it more real, more believable that she was under that.
Yeah.
Because E.T.'s head was so long. But they just left her up at the top of the hill for like hours.
So you had such a different
Felt that way.
I really did.
But like, I don't know if I can speak for Duane, but when I was a kid, we've said this on the podcast before, and it was like, go away, go outside, and come back, when the streetlights turn on, or after.
Like even that young though?
Pretty young.
Again, it was the 80s.
Yeah.
There's so many questions.
Stranger danger wasn't quite a thing yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I was raised on Stranger Danger. So that still feels foreign to me, and it's just amazing how much the world has changed, but also like the reason I would not have been allowed to do something like that is because children were stolen like a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's because kids were just left out.
Yeah.
Just trust that your kid will know who's right and who's wrong, and
Yeah.
it's just, oh my gosh.
On the topic of Halloween, we all notice Yoda.
Yes.
And then we get a full circle moment in the prequels, right? Everybody
Yeah.
know about this?
In what prequels?
In the Star Wars prequels. In like episode 1.
Yeah.
So in this movie, E.T. sees Yoda and he's got home, home,
Yeah.
home, home. In the, I think it's episode 1, and then when they're in the Galactic Senate and you see all the different aliens, there is a pod that is a bunch of ETs.
What?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
They would be ET's elected senators.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Okay, because there are so many of them, and I don't recall which number is which. Who is acting in it?
Ewan McGregor.
Oh, okay.
Who's Qui-Gon? Liam Neeson.
Jake Lloyd,
Jake
Liam
Lloyd.
Neeson,
Okay.
Ahmed
Not
Best.
the Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman's first one, yeah.
That was Natalie Portman's first one.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah,
It's
episode
been
1,
a
The Phantom
very
Menace.
long time.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I don't recall that at all.
Beat's favorite of all of the Star Wars, right, Beat?
Yeah.
There's a resounding yeah.
I didn't realize that E.T. made Elliot's bike fly twice.
Yeah.
And I love that part is the Amblin symbol,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely. And it's been mimicked in lots of other things. Famously Mac and Me. Not really. But probably the one that lots of people nowadays know is Stranger Things. Season 1, they have the,
oh yes,
the
because
kid-
Belle makes them
well,
fly.
there's a couple moments. There's a lot of ET references in Stranger Things, but they're on the bikes, and I think that she makes a van go over them instead of them.
Yeah, they build it up like, oh,
Yeah.
they've done all this 80s stuff. She's going to make the bikes fly like E.T. And instead, she sends the van rocketing up into the air
That's
so they can cruise right under it
Yeah.
and not have to fly.
Yeah.
It's a nice little bait and switch.
Yeah, but a good reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love in the bicycle chase how
Wait, the bicycle chase
They've-
or the we're still on Halloween, right?
oh yeah, we're still on Halloween. I'll save it for later.
David, I know what you're gonna say. You saved it. You saved it.
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm gonna say.
I know you're.
But thank you for bringing up Mac and Me before I had to, because
Yeah, I knew you were.
it was gonna come up eventually.
I could see you sweating and trying to like hold it in as long as you could.
Oh, God bless you, Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
The people driving around just listening to the houses?
Yeah. That's our boy Keys.
Yes. Is that legal?
No.
Probably not.
Okay. That felt super these people are trespassing.
They did a lot of very unethical stuff to find ET.
Yes.
And they just go in their
cannot
house.
just
Yeah, they break
driving around
in.
listening to other people's conversations and then going into their house when no one else is there
Yeah.
because they know that the mom left
Yeah.
to go, I would imagine, try and find Elliot or something.
I think all the kids are gone. Nobody's in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they had someone on
thought, like,
stakeout.
did she freak out because all the kids were gone?
Yeah.
Or did she freak out because she was so upset about her ex-husband being in Mexico?
Well, everything. I think so. I think she's upset that the kids are gone. I think she's upset that she has to be the one to do all this by herself. And so she's sort of like, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. He's in
Yeah.
paradise
He
with.
doesn't even like Mexico.
Yeah.
That bothered me so much that they were going into the house and like,
violating their house.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually really love. There's a piece of production design in the film. Every time you see the hallway outside of Elliot's room, there's a chair, and the chair for the entire film is is always away from the wall, just a little bit out from in front of the table. So when the
Sorry,
Alexis. So then when the
extension cord.
The extension cord pulls the chair up against the wall. It's this like really kind of violent, I don't know, just this violent imagery that like something really bad's about to happen.
It's like a strangulation.
But they did the work and had that chair out the entire. I've looked. That chair is out the entire movie. So
it's wild. Elliot gets back to the home. He's safe, and yet again, a small child is given a big responsibility to draw a bath.
Yeah. Well, which is actually important.
Why?
And it's important why Elliot is doing a little bit better than E.T. at this point. So E.T.'s race is, or I don't know if race is the right word, but whatever he is. What's that?
Species?
Species, yeah. His species is plant-based. They're this sort of, which is why they're harvesting other plants and doing research, and they're like botanists essentially, but they're also plant-like. And genetically, the way they evolved is that they have like there's like a whole chemical breakdown for the character, and that it was sort of determined that they're semi-aquatic. And so there's a deleted scene which ended up in the re-release like weird digital version that nobody really acknowledges anymore, where he's in the bath and he takes to the water really well. It also explains why E.T. goes to the culvert when he's dying. It's because he needs the water. So the drawing the bath for Elliot is something that's sort of helping Elliot inadvertently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that culvert, incidentally, is no longer there, has been demolished. And the public works, the city works person that was involved with that knew that this was like an important location in movie history, and took a piece of the culvert and sent it to Steven Spielberg with a thank you for making it a part of history.
Aww.
Which is nice.
That is sweet.
Yeah. I keep throwing my hand in front of you.
I keep in the microphone. It's okay.
It's all right. It's all right.
On my screen, it's almost perfectly proportioned, too.
Oh,
really?
It lines up perfectly based on the arrangement of the... Yeah. It worked out.
So weird.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I write, men in full spacesuits take over the house.
Yeah.
Spacesuits? Why? Hazmat makes more sense.
I thought about that, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be like weird defender of a film.
Great.
I think that there is a less likelihood of breach in a spacesuit than there would be in a hazmat suit. And being that this is essentially first contact, that's why they're in spacesuits initially. Because once that scene happens, they're no longer in spacesuits. They're all in hazmat suits. And there's actually a really interesting thing with the masks and stuff that they wear, I think, as well. But I'll get to that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like how it...
No. Not the design of them, seamstress.
I meant the hazmat mask, where it's like this nice curvature. Yeah.
No, it's not about
Instead of like just the eyes, you can really see the whole
I have a more thematic thing, but that is nice. I mean, that's probably great for actors.
For sure.
And see their whole face.
Yeah. You know, this was the first time that I realized that the character Keyes wasn't really a bad guy.
Yeah.
As a kid, he seemed like this looming bad man.
Well, and it's sort of intentionally like framed that way for most of the movie. So it's easy to sort of like mix that up.
Yeah. And to see that he is just a kid at heart, and he's totally living through Elliot.
Yeah.
And it was just like if he could have been Elliot, it would have made his dreams come true.
Yeah, I think maybe in some ways he's maybe represents Steven Spielberg a little bit. You know, this idea that like the thing I dreamed about when I was 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when Elliot is saying, "You're killing him," I feel like it's because they were treating him like a human and not like a different being.
Yeah.
And they were all like hands off in a sense, like he wasn't getting real physical contact.
No. Well, and those actors, most of them, were actually brought in from a hospital. They were all nurses and doctors because they wanted everything to kind of look and sound real. So they were just like, do what you do.
Wow.
So yeah, they were definitely treating him like a human would, because that's what those people. Yeah, that sound was weird.
Yeah, that just went away.
Yeah. Did you guys also hear a weird change?
Yeah.
Oh,
now it's back.
I just muted my microphone and that killed it, but I'm going to mute again because I feel a sneeze coming on.
Okay.
Yeah, I kept like listening, putting my earphone up. That's why I kept doing that.
It's the microphone he's using.
Oh, okay. Well, it's okay.
Okay.
It's all right.
That was wild.
Nobody cares.
Except for us.
Who's listening to this? Like, comment, subscribe. What are we deciding? If you're listening to this episode, you send us a review.
Yes.
Check out our Patreon.
Yes.
Oh, since we're in the middle of our episode, shout out to our friends over at the Ill Repute Podcast, who are now patrons of our
yay,
of our page, patrons of our podcast. How do you say this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're Patreon patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ill Repute Podcast.
Thank you.
Also, if you want to listen to a podcast about like it's about incredible women made by incredible women who are really, really fucking smart. They know their shit. They do a ton of research on the things they talk about. And they do really, really great podcasts. So definitely check out Ill Repute Podcast.
Yeah.
So,
Ill Repute.
Anyways, let's back to E.T.
Back to E.T. So the whole you're killing him. What after Keyes is like, oh, Elliot, you can like say goodbye to him. Essentially, I was like, love is what he needed. All you need is love.
Yeah.
That just being compassionate, I feel, is what brought E.T. back. Was the extra compassion. I don't know. Oh, you have different feelings. Please share.
No, I mean, I like I like the theme of what you're saying. I mean, I think directly what brings him back is the proximity to his people, is what brings him back. But but in a way, you're not wrong, because they love him. They need their little boy back.
Yeah.
And Elliot's compassion and love for E.T. is what allowed them to come back, right? Like helped him build the transmitter and get on the supplies and took care of him as long as he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, I think you're right. Thematically, you're correct.
When E.T.'s ship does come back.
Oh, we're not there yet, are we?
Okay.
Are you
There's
there?
still more.
Is that,
yeah.
is that you don't have notes in between this and that?
Nope.
Okay. So let's talk about E.T.'s death.
Yes.
So obviously E.T. chooses to let Elliot go, tells him to stay, which has got to be a difficult decision for E.T. It's a similar decision I think Elliot's going to kind of have to make at the end. They sort of ask each other to go or stay with each other, but they get it. But a couple things. Once he dies, and I didn't notice this until I was an adult, all of the doctors take their masks off. And it's a really nice silent indicator of their intentions from the beginning. It sort of informs, it changes how you felt about them from before. Because you sort of see them as antagonists. And Spielberg, when they're working on him, intentionally shot it so it looked like they were hurting him.
Yeah.
And then they take their masks off. And what that tells us is that they weren't protecting themselves from him. They were protecting him from themselves.
Oh.
Because he was gone, so they couldn't hurt him anymore. They couldn't infect him with something. Which I think is a really nice, beautiful way of showing their intentions. And then the Peter Pan moment comes back. And Gertie says, I wish he could come back. And the mom says, I wish that too. And it's sort of the, I believe in fairies. If you just clap hard enough, you can bring them back. So again, they kind of plant that seed. There's a story before they shot the scene with Gertie in there, which, by the way, one of the few moments in this movie that really just gets me and makes me cry every time is seeing Gertie when they shock him with the defibrillator, and Gertie jumps and she's crying, and that just destroys me every time. But so prior to shooting the scene, Dee Wallace went out to her and said, okay, we're going to shoot this scene. And again, keep in mind, she thought E.T. was real. We're going to go in, we're going to shoot this scene. E.T.'s going to look like he's dying, and we're going to pretend that he's dead, but he's not really dead. And Drew looked at her and said, I know that. So she picked her up and took her in there and set her down. And the moment she looked up and saw E.T., she lost it and went, he's dying, and just lost her mind. And they were like, roll camera.
My gosh.
So yeah, poor little Drew. But I just thought that was a
oh my gosh,
really great moment.
Yeah.
And then after E.T.'s gone, Elliot says something, and this is the moment that, like, again, as an adult, sort of understanding the thematic journey that Elliot's going through. Elliot's learning what his mother is going through. He hasn't been able to cope with the loss of his father, and understanding, he's like kind of angry at his mom, and he says this line where he's like, you must be gone because I don't even know how to feel anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people who lose significant others go through. And he's, for the first time, understanding what his mother is going through. Yeah. And it's just a really weird, deep moment for this child, this 10-year-old boy. But I don't even know how to feel anymore. It's such a heartbreaking moment. Watching this with Beat was really fun, because when E.T.'s heart starts to glow and he doesn't see it, Beat was like, turn around. Just turn around.
Yes.
Just open your eyes, please.
What'd you say, Beat?
I said, just open your eyes, please. Look.
Yeah. When he sees the plant and he gets excited. But even more so, and I think this is such a credit to Henry Thomas as a young actor. When Keyes is leading him away and he's pretending to cry, and then he sees the plant again and he goes, ah! I just think it's such a great moment, and such a I don't know what kind of direction they gave him. I don't know if that was him doing that or what, but it speaks volume to him as an actor. And so a lot of people have seen, I don't know if you guys have seen his audition footage for this. They hired him on the spot. So they brought him in, and Spielberg basically was like, so we're going to do a scene, and this guy's coming in and he's going to take your dog away, and you have to explain to him why you don't want him to take the dog away. And he does this thing, and he's crying. This kid's crying in this audition, and just, it's super, super moving. And they finish, and Spielberg goes, okay, kid, you got the job. It was just that,
wow.
Yeah, he was a special kid, and it was kind of sad to like see him not really do much for a lot of his career. Now he's back with vengeance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. He became a musician. Composed some music for some movies too. Smaller movies, but anyways, we can keep.
Well, because shortly after that, there's the whole bike chase scene.
Yeah, so
which I know Steve wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so leading into that, Steve, we're going to talk about the friends. So they go up and they tell the friends, meet us at the playground at the top of the hill.
Yes.
And then so the terrorists come back, right?
Terrorists?
Yeah. So you're not leaving this house dressed like that. You're not going to go out on Halloween dressed as a terrorist. And what do his friends help him do? They help them abscond with government property.
Yeah.
That's essentially terrorism, right? I don't think that was really the intention, but I think that's kind of a fun thing that just happened to be.
Yeah.
But you were sort of motioning the putting on the
They were suiting up.
Yeah. So, so do you guys remember what they put on?
There was a baseball cap. There was
baseball cap with, or was it was a hat with sunglasses?
Sunglasses. A hat with headphones.
The largest headphones imaginable.
And a ski mask. See no evil.
See no evil.
Hear no evil. Speak no evil.
Shit.
Ah, that's a good one.
Wow, that was so subtle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good movie.
Yeah, it really is. So they're biking around.
Yeah, they're biking around. Oh, Steve
Yeah.
want to talk about biking around.
Right. So they're, there's the big chase with the van against the cars, and then they get up to the playground. Where how Michael wouldn't know where the playground was doesn't make any sense. He told them which playground to meet at, but what are you gonna do? But then they get there, they switch from the van to their bicycles. They're riding their bikes. They're going over down all these nice dirty hills and off all these alley-oops and whatnot. And then they get onto just a nice flat suburban street, and everything seems to be fine. And it cuts to C. Thomas Howell, and he's like, yeah, we made it. And then a man on foot is just right next to his bike, and a million other adults fill in right behind him.
Yeah, like he wouldn't.
And it's like they all would have had to been just 3 feet away in order for that timing to work out at all.
Yeah.
So that always cracks me up. Yeah, we made it. It's like, no, there are adults all around you, and here they come.
Immediately.
That always makes me laugh. There's no way you wouldn't have seen them, but that's part of the fun of movie making.
All right, I'm gonna say hashtag justice for Michael. So I'm gonna disagree with Steve on the driving to the playground, because as we see earlier in the film when he goes to look for ET, he uses people's backyards and things. So these are kids that don't like take a driving route to get to the playground. And part of the point is that, and Elliot says this, I don't know, mom always drives me. So I think he doesn't know how to drive to the playground. I think he knows how to get there if he was on foot or on a bike, but
he knows all the back ways.
That's fair.
Hashtag justice for Michael.
But he also said the playground at the top of the hill.
Yeah, they know where they.
And then he's driving downhill in a couple shots.
Yeah, but it's like, how do you get to that place? What streets do you go around to get back up the hill? I gotta go down the hill to get back up to the top of the hill. I don't know how to drive that. He's only driven backwards, Steve.
True.
That's a fair point.
All right. Hashtag justice for Michael. Go ahead. I think I'm pretty much caught up to just about the end. If anybody has any notes before we get to the end. No.
Mine is.
I would say like going back to the astronauts walking through the doors, that they have like this very kind of like zombie pose where they both have their arms out like that. So it gives that extra creepy factor. And they're not saying anything. You just hear the respirators and how one of them walks through the sliding glass door that's conveniently unlocked and wide open. And as he walks through the curtain that's down, like he doesn't bat the curtain off, he just walks straight through it. Yeah. So so that's how you kind of up the creepy factor. And then the other astronaut behind that kind of reaches in through the window as well.
Yeah. And maybe another argument towards the spacesuits is that when ET sees one, he says home. So maybe he recognizes, maybe it's like more recognizable for extraterrestrials because we go into space in those things. I don't know. That's just a conjecture, but maybe. I don't know. But you're right. I do like the melodramatic like 1950s monster vibe that they give with their arms straight out. It's very like Frankenstein-y.
Yeah. It really is.
And one other mention of note that we were talking early on about how this movie is kind of scary, and I think like one thing was like when you see E.T. in the culverts and he's so ashen white, that's a freaky sight.
Absolutely.
And then seeing him, and seeing him on their mom's bathroom floor, and he's even whiter. That kind of like when you're a kid, you're like, ah.
Yeah,
he's like this brown color, and all of a sudden he's just ash white, and it's just super creepy. It absolutely rattles you.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes sense that Mary is so terrified and thinks that that E.T. has done something
Made her kid sick.
Yeah, because this is her first time seeing it. She doesn't know. She has no context as to what has gone on.
And Elliot does say, "I think we're dying."
Yeah.
So, like, it's pretty heartbreaking when she pulls him away and E.T.'s screaming, and he reaches out to her. He's like, "Mom." Yeah, it's rough. Rough stuff.
Rough stuff. They're outside the spaceship that has again landed, and Elliot says something to the effect of, "I want to say goodbye," and his brother says he doesn't have a word for goodbye.
Oh, it's Gertie says it, yeah.
Gertie says that. Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? Dances with Wolves. I'm going to go on a limb and say, in a roundabout way, those two movies have the same story.
Okay, if you say so.
That just because they're othered doesn't mean that they're bad. Just because they don't have the same language doesn't mean that they don't understand the exact same feelings.
They're similar themes.
It made me get a little sad.
Yeah.
It made me get a lot sad.
Yeah.
Who am I kidding? But especially the ouch.
Yeah. So the kids weren't really acting. They shot this movie mostly in chronological order, and this was how it was given to them. This was your last chance to say goodbye because you're never going to see E.T. again. And that was what this was for them. This was the last time to ever see E.T. And so those goodbyes were real. Those were real emotions.
And I'll be right here.
His head.
His here?
Here. Well, he lights his finger up, and the point is, I believe that. Well, let's talk about what they learn. So Gertie learns, and this is my opinion. Gertie learns that things are finite by having to say goodbye, and she gives the plant away. Michael gets a thank you and says you're welcome, and I think Michael learns that he's capable of greater things. Yeah. He's capable of driving the car. He's capable of listening to someone younger than him and helping other people selflessly.
Yes.
And Elliot's is the hardest and most, maybe in some ways, tragic, because he grows up in a moment. He learns that love doesn't just exist in like a physical form, because at the beginning of the film he's on the verge of spiraling into like an emotional depression, because of his parents, and E.T. like sort of saves him from that moment. And throughout the film we just like watch him grow up, has a first kiss, and experiences alcohol and the loss of somebody important to him, and now he has to say goodbye, which is in some ways like more difficult. Like when something's taken away, it's different than when you give it up. But he basically learns what love can be, and I think that's the point of like I'll always be in your head. You'll always be able to remember this. In the same way that like when you lose a loved one to death, that like you lose a lot of that physical stuff, but the emotional and mental is still there.
Yeah, the memories.
And I believe the reason why the finger lights up is because Elliot has needed to heal the entire movie, and the lighting of the finger represents love, which is healing. Heals his finger and heals his heart, and and helps his brain process this thing that's happening. So yeah, that's what I have, and that's the moment that gets me every time. Yeah. Every time. Is I'll be right here. Because Elliot tells him that throughout the film. He tells him that when he goes to get food for him for the first time, and he tells him that when they're dying. I'll be right here. I'll be right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna cry all over again, you guys.
So beautiful.
So Spielberg originally intended to make a sequel to this film. Because of that, we know that E.T.'s real name is Zrek.
Say what?
Zrek, Zrek.
Huh.
I think it was about some otherworldly beings kidnapping Elliot and his family, and E.T.'s family having to help them.
Okay.
But like this movie sort of has this like innocent like quality to it, and Spielberg I think just ultimately decided like let's not sully that. And
Thank you, Steven.
yeah, I know, right?
I think that would have ruined it.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so there was also a different ending to this film. Let's talk about the real ending first.
Okay.
So the spaceship flies away. We get a little rainbow, which Beat and I were discussing. E.T. confirmed gay icon. But the rainbow is really important.
Okay.
Do we know why the rainbow is really important in this film?
I
was going with gay icon. But...
No, I mean gay icon for sure. So it's E.T.'s sort of last thing he says to Elliot. When they ask him where his home is, he points out the window through the blinds, and all of Elliot's blinds are rainbows.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No. You just made this movie 10 times sadder for me. Gee, let's rewatch. I'll cry this time.
Oh,
and you can kind of see when like as the shot comes back to the rainbow, it's sort of like dissipating, and it also plays a little bit into like the water theme and things like that. But
wow.
But yeah,
interesting.
One last little message to Elliot.
Wow. And when the flowers come back to life, usually flowers need water.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've never thought about how he makes the waters come back, but maybe he's like supplying some of his life force to do that.
Maybe that's why he started dying so quickly.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he was just
he's thirsty.
Giving of himself.
Yeah. He's drinking beer instead of water. What a dummy.
Also, do you notice that the very last thing you see of E.T. is his heart?
Yeah.
As it closes in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all you need is love, guys.
This movie's about love.
Mm-hmm.
So the original ending of this film was going to be, it's sweet in its own way, but then they realized what they had with the music and all that. It was originally going to be Elliot was the D&D game leader with the boys. He finally became part of the group, and he had a group of his own that wasn't just his family, and he was the one in charge. He had ultimate power. And then the camera was going to come up out of the house to the rooftop, and you would see the communicator and know that Elliot was still communicating with E.T. So, which is sweet in its own right, but I'm glad that they left it the way they did.
Likewise.
Yeah. That whole last reel of music is John Williams is like unbelievable. And when they were recording that, they do score live to the video. They have an edited movie, and then so they can fine tune it to the film, and hit the beats on the right place and stuff. And he was not getting it. He could not figure out how to make it work right. So, in a sort of unprecedented move, Spielberg said, "Turn off the film, conduct it like you're doing a concert." So that's what he did. He just did the song. And then Steven Spielberg went back with his editor, and they re-edited the end of the film to fit the music, which is like kind of unheard of.
Oh, yeah.
But probably benefited from it because John Williams is a genius. Steven Spielberg's always sort of been like really transparent about like, I have these ideas and we put these things out and everybody does this great work. But John Williams sort of takes something fine and makes it great. Like he's a storyteller of his own right, and he just turns things magic. So that's what happened there. So I'll talk about some more post movie things. But does anybody else have anything they want to say about the movie specifically?
I do have something, but I can let the other gang jump in if they have anything to say. Steve or Beat or Alexis have anything else to say?
Go for it.
Because
go for it, Duane.
Okay, so I speaking of the one shot I do. There's a shot that I like at the end where the boys land on the bikes and it's go shoo, 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 and they're all parallel like the way they skid. That was a great shot.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like you were, B was saying, like E.T. is a gay icon. Spielberg did say that E.T. is actually non-binary.
Yeah,
so
no, that's true.
So his species. I'm assuming that applies to his entire species, but there you go.
I forgot about that. Thanks, Duane.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of great shots, and we're just talking about shots, two that I really love. One is when Keyes is talking to Elliot. Elliot's laying there dying, and you see Elliot perfectly reflected in Keyes' mask. I love. And then also when after E.T.'s dead and he's in the little cryo box and Elliot's looking through and his breath is on there, but you also see his reflection in the window. It's just Steven Spielberg's just a master at framing and composition. Just a genius. Right.
I think like one other thing also that is that at the end when Mary and all the boys and they're seeing E.T. off, Keyes comes in at the same time. And it's interesting that it's just him. There's like no other government agents with them, because they're chasing. So I'm thinking that they're chasing after him, but he's going up to the site where the spaceship was at. So he's zigging while everyone else is zagging.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's true.
It kind of makes you wonder if Keyes becomes part of the family.
Yeah, there's a when Gertie goes and brings the note. She's like, "Have they left yet? Have they left yet?" And she's having a conversation with Keyes. I was like, there's something going on there. They gonna fall in love. Mary deserves something good, and Keyes is compassionate and kind. Mary deserves that.
Yeah,
I think. I don't really know Mary. Maybe she's mean. I don't know.
If only they did the sequel, that we know for sure.
We know.
And I liked how the working title of the sequel was called Nocturnal Fears.
Yes.
So yeah, just not a This wasn't your original E.T. This was something way off base.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. This was being made or developed at the same time that Poltergeist was happening. So Tobe Hooper directed Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg overseeing. Most of us believe that Steven Spielberg really directed Poltergeist. He wasn't allowed to do that at the same time as E.T. Wow. But the idea being that Poltergeist was the suburban nightmare and the E.T. was like sort of like the suburban dream, like the sort of the yin and yang of the suburbs. So just thought I'd mention that real quick. Sorry, I'm just going through here. This movie inspired several songs in popular culture. Anybody a Neil Diamond fan?
Yes.
Turn on the heart light. That's about E.T.
Really?
Yeah, it talks about your friend and that friend that you need and having to say goodbye and turn on the heart light. It's
the heart light.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's inspired by E.T.
I'm gonna add that to my list of things to listen to.
James Taylor wrote a song for this movie, but then they didn't use it, so he did release it, and it's called "Song for You Far Away," and it's on his recorded in 1985 for release on his "That's Why I'm Here" album. It's an alright song.
Cool.
The Heartlight song's better. Michael Jackson did a song for this movie. It's called "Someone in the Dark." And they loved the song so much they asked him to do an entire album. Well, not an entire album. They asked him to do the entire storybook album, which was this really cool. I wish I had this. A really cool box set that they made, and it's Michael Jackson reading the story of this film. It came with a book so you could read along with it. It has the song on it, and then it came with like a poster with Michael Jackson with E.T. or something. Like
wow.
That. So yeah, it's really cool. And the deal was that they agreed to do it as long as they agreed to not release it as a single and not release it until after Christmas of '82 because they didn't want to compete with Thriller.
Oh, yeah.
MCA breached the contract on both counts. Yeah. So they ended up losing a bunch of money, and I think like $500,000, and I don't know, they got in trouble.
Yeah,
they got in big trouble for it. But in the 84 Grammys, Michael Jackson took home 8 awards. One of them was for the storybook album. And he said of all the awards that he won that night, that was the one he was the most proud of.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think maybe the last like kind of funny thing is that originally this was in development with Columbia. They decided they didn't want to make the movie.
Idiots.
Well, but they still kept 5% stake in the film, and it became their biggest hit of 1982 despite not releasing this film.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was a huge hit. I
Yeah.
mean, 5% of a lot of money is still a lot of money.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild.
So yeah, so that's E.T. Yeah, it's a movie that I'm like thinking about it and trying not to get emotional. So for me, growing up listening to my dad was really into music, and I was really into like watching TV and movies and stuff. And I grew up listening to a weird variety of music. Isaac Hayes, Chicago, music score, Fifth Dimension. Like it's just like all over the Spyro Gyra. But there were some albums in my dad's record collection, like the Pink Panther, Henry Mancini, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Superman, the movie, Star Wars, stuff like that. And, things like this. And when I was a kid, they would take me, I saw Henry Mancini conduct live. I saw John Williams conduct live as a kid. Wow. And I think, when I was a kid, I didn't realize it, but as an adult now and having lost my father, it's more apparent that movie soundtracks, score specifically, was a way that sort of connected my dad and I. Sorry, trying to keep it in. So this being a movie about, especially now, being about love and loss and things, it's even more poignant for me. And the soundtrack it's important. So anyways, thank you. That's my emotional way of saying thank you to all 5 of you. We've been doing View the Right Thing for 10 years.
Wow.
Off and on. And now 100 episodes, and I love every single one of you. And I'm grateful for every minute we watched movies together and talked about movies and done this. So I'm sorry I'm so emotional about it, but
we love you too.
Thank you. Anyways, so thank you, and thank you for anybody that's listening. It's meant a lot. So
I don't think this was a surprise at all that you were saving this for the 100th episode, because I know how much this means to you, because this is one of, if not your most favorite movie of all time. And I think this was the movie that when you were a kid, like, okay, I want to make movies. This is what sealed the deal for you to make movies, and made Spielberg your favorite director ever.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can see you being the kind of guy, because like I wanted to ask you this, because I don't know, like you're the kind of guy that I would imagine you had the VHS, you bought the special edition DVD, you bought the Blu-ray when it came out, you bought the 4K Blu-ray when it came out, and then you got the lunchbox thermos, I'll bet. So I'm just wondering, like, how many of those do you actually own?
Oh, well, since we're doing a video podcast, well then. That's for me.
Oh boy, there's a lot. Wow.
He's going straight to the toy box and showing like everything.
Yes.
Round up those collectibles.
Oh.
So, okay, I don't have my headphones. So, of course I have all of the ET Pops. The ETs, the Gerties. Of course, the Elliots with the Reese's Pieces. I've got the drinking glass. I have it's in another binder. I have the DVD. I have the Ultimate Edition that has both versions of it. That has the altered digital weirdness that Steven Spielberg did, which I'm okay that he did it. Whatever. I guess we could talk about the controversy behind that. So for one of the anniversary releases, he put some deleted scenes in and then digitally changed some things. Most notably, the thing that people really just like up in arms, is he changed the guns into walkie-talkies at the end of the movie when they're riding the bikes towards they have the shotguns, the Remington shotguns. He turned those into walkie-talkies. And a lot of people hated that. Like, oh, yeah, all these directors changing these movies that they should exist the way they were. And his reasoning was, I never intended to have adults point guns at children. Mm-hmm. And so I get it. And it's his movie. He can do whatever he wants with it. Yeah. But he's since, sort of said, we're not going to re-release that version ever again. We're going to stick with the original. It is what it is. And now he's sort of come off of the digital after Crystal Skull. He kind of came off the digital bandwagon. It was like, let's let things exist as they are. Here's the 4K release. I have another pop that's like up there. That's Elliot riding in front of the moon, and the moon is glow in the dark. I have another action figure back there, E.T. in his little bathrobe. And then I'm trying to think what else I have. Soundtracks. I have vinyl. I have the Mondo vinyl, the Mondo limited edition.
Nice.
I want to get two more versions of it that I'd like to get. I have just the regular black vinyl. And I want the one that has the moon is the disc, and then there's another one that's his heart as the disc.
Oh, that's cool.
And oh my gosh, what else do I have? I have so many ET things.
I see one right away.
What do you see? Oh, she's gonna go get one.
Go get it.
It might be the action figure. It's the action figure. They made a series. These only got one of them. So it's little ET. Oh, it's not the one in the robe. And he's got like little Reese's Pieces, although they just say peanut butter candy. He's got a speak and spell.
What?
He's got I'll be in hers. The geraniums, and then different hands. You can swap out his hands, which is cute. And
they couldn't work out a deal to have real Reese's Pieces on the label. That's so weird.
Probably would cost a bit.
Oh, and he's got a little white blanket. You can't really see it because of the glare, but there's a little white blanket that you can put over him. And they made different versions. They made the one where he's in the robe and has the phone with him and stuff, and it's designed to look weathered, although it does have a tear on it. But yeah, so and then I have digital versions of it. I both had the regular like high def version, and also now I have the 4K that came with the 4K disc. So yeah, I've definitely, to answer your question, purchased every version that I could. I have the ill-fated, I think it's in another room, the ill-fated Atari video game as well. That
nice.
Naturally
ended up in a landfill. So, yeah. Yeah.
You got one of the copies that managed to not get buried, is what you're saying?
I did.
Or did somebody exhume them?
Somebody did exhume them. There's a whole documentary about it, and there's a angry video game nerd movie about it as well.
Nice.
But yeah, somebody did exhume them, and they truly were buried in a landfill.
Wow.
And they found them, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, so that's my ET thing. We actually before we wrap this up, we pre-drew our next movie. Our next movie is which we Bonnie and Clyde.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that's what people have to look forward to next on Be the Right Thing, and then we're gonna have maybe one more movie and then some spooky stuff.
Ooh la la.
Because spooky month is coming.
And just as a fun fact, this E.T. was actually the first movie I'd seen in a theater.
Really?
And I was 4 years old. It was for my brother's birthday. It was me, my brother, mom and dad, my grandparents on my dad's side, and my sister, I think, was an infant at the time, and we had someone babysitting her. Yeah. And then later that night, I broke my collarbone.
So you remember it?
Yes. Oh. So that's how I associate those two of breaking my first ever bone and watching E.T.
So when
were you trying to make a bicycle fly?
I flew off a swing actually because the chain broke.
Oh wow!
Oh
yeah. I remember like the babysitter and I was on her lap and just swinging back and forth, and the chain broke, and I fell funny or she landed on me or one of the two, and just searing pain and just screaming, crying. And so got whisked off to the hospital and got this weird suspender brace that you get when you break your collarbone. So yeah, there's a bit of a negative connotation to this movie, unfortunately, due to some relatively minor childhood trauma.
When you watch it, do you get a little twinge in your
collarbone?
No, I don't feel that.
No. Okay.
Again, I'm a Scorpio. I feel nothing.
Fair enough. All right. Any other last thoughts about anything? This movie or anything else?
Wes, congratulations on 100 episodes and 10 years. Did we really start 10 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 2014.
What a different world it was.
Yeah, we didn't even know what the name of the podcast was.
That's true.
You used to start harassing me every episode with a completely different name. You can do it for old time's sake if you'd like.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Jaws with Wes Weizenhofer and Alexis and Steve and Duane and Darling Beat.
Yeah.
No, this has been View the Right Thing, 100th episode.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
All right. Then let's wrap it up. And anybody have anything you want to plug? Just throw it out there. Anybody you follow Steve, follow Alexis, follow Duane. I don't know. Duane, you want people to follow your Instagram? I don't know.
My Insta is private, so no, I'm good. Thanks.
Suckers.
My Insta is at Alexis C. Martino. Pretty straightforward. I'm producing a play up in North Hollywood at the Loft Ensemble Theater from October 15th through November 7th. Come and see it. It's going to be hilarious.
Steve, anything you want to plug?
You can always follow me on pretty much every social media platform at Big Steve Moulton, Moulton. Mm-hmm. I think I've got that locked in on all of them.
Nice.
And all of them.
Beats. Do you want to plug? You don't. Follow them, yeah. And then I just want to say,
thanks, Beat.
You can follow us on Instagram, VTRT at VTRT Movies, Patreon.com/VTRT Movies. We're on TikTok. We're technically on X. We don't really use it. Nobody really wants to use X. But yeah, interact with us at Patreon, especially. Love to. There's a paid tier. You don't have to do paid. Free's good. We love the free people just as much. But there is a paid tier that you get to watch a movie with at least one of us once a month online. And we have, by the time this comes out, we'll have already done one, and we'll be probably in the process of figuring out the next one, or about to. And we do a little poll. So if you're in that tier, you get to vote on which of the movies you want to watch. So,
amazing.
Maybe think about it. And okay, until next time, everyone, bon cinema.